8 people walked into a glass building in the Arizona desert and locked the door behind them. Inside was everything a human being needs: a rainforest, an ocean with real waves, a farm. 3 acres of engineered paradise built by hand, sealed shut from the world. Nothing out there could reach them. No storms, no disease, nothing hunting them. 2 years later, they came out gaunt, gasping for air, and so far past hating each other that half would not turn their heads to look at the other half. Nothing from outside ever touched them. Every single thing that broke them, they had built themselves. This is Biosphere 2, the most expensive lesson we have ever learned about our own planet, and almost everyone remembers it wrong. In the late 1980s, a group of engineers, ecologists, and true believers, bankrolled by a Texas oil heir named Ed Bass, set out to test something nobody had ever seriously tried. Could humans build a working world from scratch? Not a shelter, not a greenhouse, a world. A sealed system that made its own air, grew its own food, and recycled its own water forever with no help from Earth at all. If it worked, it was the blueprint for living on Mars. If it worked, it meant we understood how our planet actually functions. They spent somewhere close to $200 million finding out. What they built outside Tucson still looks like it landed there. 3 acres of white steel and glass, pyramids and domes, sitting in the open desert. Inside, they packed 7 worlds against each other: a rainforest, a thawed desert, a savannah, a marsh, a coral reef ocean, a farm, and a place for the humans to live. They stocked it with around 3,800 species, everyone chosen, everyone placed on purpose. Nothing inside that building was an accident. That was the entire point, and that is exactly why it came apart. On the 26th of September 1991, 8 people, 4 men and 4 women, stepped through the airlock. It was sealed behind them. They were not coming out for 2 years. For a while, it worked. They farmed. They took measurements. They watched their ocean move. And then the air started going wrong. The air you are breathing right now is about 21% oxygen. That number is so stable across the whole planet you have never once had to think about it. Inside Biosphere 2, that number began to slide, slowly. Nobody panicked at first. It kept sliding. By January of 1993, the oxygen inside had fallen to 14.2%. Put that in your body for a second. That is roughly the air at 13,400 feet, higher than almost any mountain you have ever stood on. Except they had not climbed anything. They were standing in a glass building at sea level, drowning slowly in a room. They were exhausted constantly. Climbing a flight of stairs left them winded. They developed sleep apnea, stopping breathing in the night, and nobody could work out where the oxygen was going. Here is what made it a genuine mystery rather than just a broken machine. When oxygen disappears, it normally goes somewhere obvious. Something burns it, or something breathes it, and carbon dioxide takes its place. That is the trade. Oxygen down, carbon dioxide up. That is how it works everywhere on Earth. Inside Biosphere 2, the oxygen went down. The carbon dioxide did not come up to match. Some of it was simply missing, not converted into anything they could find. Gone. They were losing air into a hole that did not exist. It took 2 scientists from Columbia University, Jeff Severinghaus and Wallace Brucker, to find it. And they found it by reading isotopes, the chemical fingerprints carbon leaves behind. The carbon had gone into the walls. Biosphere 2 was built on concrete, and they had left an enormous amount of it exposed. Bare concrete pulls carbon dioxide out of the air and locks it away as calcium carbonate. It turns the air into stone. Slowly, silently, every wall had been drinking the crew's atmosphere and filing it away in the masonry. And the reason there was so much carbon dioxide in the first place was the soil. They filled their world with rich, black, organic dirt because rich soil grows good food. But rich soil is alive. The microbes woke up and started eating, and every one of them breathed. They burned oxygen at a rate no plant in that building could ever match. Broker was blunt. They had loaded the soil with 5 to 10 times more organic matter than normal ground. So the crew were being suffocated from 2 directions at once. By the dirt they chose, and by the walls they poured. They had built a paradise, and it was quietly breathing them in. They were also starving. The farm never produced what the spreadsheets promised. The crew lost between 18 and 58 pounds each in roughly the first 6 months. They were hungry all day, every day. They worked farm labor on the calories of a small lunch. They dreamed about food. And here is the strangest part of the whole thing. The doctor sealed in there with them, a man named Roy Walford, had spent his career studying calorie restriction, the theory that eating less makes you live longer. So while his crewmates went hungry, their physician did not see a food emergency. He saw his life's work running live. In his view, they were not starving, they were being improved. While the humans thinned out, their world was dying around them. The pollinators went first. All of them. The hummingbirds died, the bees died. In a sealed world built to grow its own food, nothing was left alive that could pollinate a crop. They had to do it themselves, by hand, plant by plant. Roughly 40% of the species they had sealed inside went extinct within those 2 years. Around 1,500 kinds of living thing, chosen and placed by experts, simply stopped existing. What thrived was what always thrives. Cockroaches, brought in deliberately to break down leaf litter, bred into swarms. A species called the longhorn crazy ant took the entire building. By 1996, out of every 100 ants at a bait station, more than 99 were crazy ants. Morning glory vines climbed over the rainforest and blocked out the light, strangling what was underneath. They designed a rainforest, an ocean, and a savannah. What they got was ants, roaches, and weeds, and then the people broke. Before the 2 years were even half done, the 8 of them split into 2 factions of 4. The fault line was food and whether to accept help from outside, but by the end, it barely needed a reason. People who went in as close friends came out as enemies. For the final 14 months, they would not make eye contact. They would not speak unless something absolutely required it. Sit with that. 8 people, 3 acres of glass. Nowhere to go, no door to walk out of, not one other human being on Earth to talk to. And they chose silence. The air ran out, the food ran out, the species ran out. But the last thing to go, and the thing that never came back, was the ability to stand each other. They came out on the 26th of September, 1993. A second mission started in March of 1994. It did not last. On the 1st of April, U.S. Marshals arrived with a restraining order to remove the original management. And the man brought in to run the place was a financier named Steve Bannon. Yes, that one. 4 days later, at 3 in the morning, 2 of the original crew came back and opened it. An airlock door, 3 emergency exits, held open for about 15 minutes. 5 panes of glass broken. One said she believed the biosphere was in an emergency and it was her responsibility, not sabotage. The most ambitious sealed ecosystem ever attempted was cracked open from the outside by the people who lived in it. The second mission was shut down early, in September 1994, and that is where most people stop the story, a punchline. A rich man's folly. Hippies in jumpsuits who could not keep a greenhouse running. That reading is wrong. Biosphere 2 did not fail. Look at what it was actually testing, not whether 8 strangers could get along. It was testing whether humans, with unlimited money and the best science, could build a machine that does what Earth does for free. Make breathable air, grow food, hold a climate steady, keep thousands of species alive at once. We tried, properly. We spent $200 million, hired brilliant people, sealed off 3 acres, and we could not keep it running for 24 months. The air went bad in 16. That is not a failure. That is a result. It is one of the cleanest and most brutal results we have ever produced. Biosphere 2 answered its question completely. We just did not like the answer, and it gave us real science on the way down. Chasing that missing oxygen taught us how much carbon living soil can burn through, and how hungrily bare concrete pulls carbon dioxide out of the air. The building is still standing. The University of Arizona runs it now. They use those sealed worlds to study drought and rainforests and what a warming climate does to a landscape, precisely because it is the only place on Earth where you can break a world on purpose and measure it. The failure became the instrument. But the number that should stay with you is 14.2. Not because of a disaster, nothing exploded, nobody sabotaged the first mission. 8 careful, brilliant, motivated people did more or less everything right inside the most expensive attempt at a second Earth ever built, and in 16 months the air went thin enough to hurt them, for reasons it took years to explain. And here is the last thing. When the oxygen ran low inside Biosphere 2, they opened a valve and pumped more in from outside. When the harvest failed, outside was still there. When it became unbearable, there was a door. Every single time their world failed them, Earth was standing right outside the glass, ready to catch them. You are living in the sealed one. The same finite air, the same closed loop. The same handful of species doing the work that keeps you breathing, and 8 billion people inside who cannot agree on anything. They had an airlock. We don't.